As a reminder, this presentation entitled Management Awareness of Software Measurement, intended audience would be for those executives, managers, project managers, and anyone else who has an interest or a need to implement a software measurement program. As such, the topics are going to be at the basic level, as if you have never had a software measurement program or you're starting one up, or perhaps you had one in the past that failed and you're looking for a way to do it correctly this time so it will succeed. So we're going to go over an overview of the high-level items that are needed to start up a successful software measurement program. And if you have further questions that go beyond the basics, I would be more than happy to answer them at a later time. And you can always go out to my website and find more information, or feel free to email me or call me at any time if you'd like additional information. As such, today's topics are going to include sizing and a function point overview, measurement overview, and critical success factors for a successful measurement program. So our first topic is going to be our sizing and function point overview. As you will hear from my presentation, sizing is the really keystone to a successful measurement program. And to date, the most effective sizing methodology is function point analysis. It is a methodology that is consistent. You can use over all technologies, development platforms, industries, whatever. And so that is what I recommend, obviously, and I am a certified function point specialist and have been continuously for 15 years, and I'm also on the Accounting Practices Committee, the committee who writes the Accounting Practices Manual, which we call the Bible of Function Point Analysis, which contain all the rules and guidelines for function points. And so my slide here would be on function point analysis, and if you have any further questions on that, I'd be happy to answer your questions. Saying that, also, if certain industries, organizations still use lines of code, which we don't recommend. They're notorious and inaccurate, but if that's what you have, you know, lines of code you can use too, and there are certain backfiring methods and such for that to get it into function points, even though it's not as accurate as actually counting function points. But most estimating tools will take either function points or lines of code, so just that caveat. So talking about sizing, the need for sizing, we have to size because that is the common denominator for any sort of software measurement. If we don't have size, we can't really estimate time or cost or anything like that. So we have to have the size, and that size is a relative value which has to be established. Along with size, and you will see that we were going to talk about things like cost, time to market, and quality, which are our typical measures. But again, we got to have the size in order to look at any of those other things and make them meaningful. The benefit of sizing is that it is a quantitative or objective measure, and we use sizing for managing our expectations, for satisfying our software process improvement goals, or requirements. Sizing is needed in order to compare yourselves to the industry, which is very important. You might start out by comparing yourself in-house to other like projects, but your goal eventually should be to be able to compare yourself to the industry, because you want to get up there to where you're as good or better, hopefully, than the industry average. And in order to do so, you need a size and methodology. And right now, function points is the by far largest size and methodology in place any of you that are familiar with what we refer to as ISBAGS, ISBSG, which is the international group that has a repository of projects, over 90% of those projects are in a function point. So that, again, gives you an indication of how important it is to size with the best technology that's around right now, which is function point analysis. Okay, so why is sizing important? Well, there are a lot of reasons. One is that we have to be able to size our requirements in order to manage our expectations. If we can't size, we can't do estimations of how much it's going to cost us to do a project, what the duration of the project might be, even defects we can expect to come out of our software project. Another reason sizing is important is for process management and process improvement. If we have an effective software measurement program, not only can we look at what our current project is doing or has done as far as quality and quantity and such, but we can use that then to analyze it and come up with some process improvements for our next project. And again, sizing is the cornerstone, the keystone to that. We can use sizing for change control. Change control to me is a critical item. We'll talk about later about scope creep, scope change, how it can have a humongous negative impact on your project. And again, for estimation, because we need to know how to control our project so we come in on time and on budget and et cetera. Characteristics of an effective sizing metric. There are many characteristics, but one of the most important ones to me is has to be meaningful to the developer and the user. And that's another reason why I promote the use of function point analysis. It's because it can be translated into something that's both meaningful to the developer and the end user, something they can both understand and talk about and come to agreements on. We'll talk more about that later. Effective sizing metric is important that it's an industry-recognized one, such as function points. It needs to be consistent, have a methodology so the sizing is always consistent. And again, we'll talk about how function points meet that criteria. It should be easy to learn and to apply. It should be accurate and statistically based. Again, function point analysis is a statistical-based counting, sizing methodology, and with a proper training and learning of how to count function points, it will be accurate. It should be available when needed, which includes early in the life cycle. Again, function point analysis is able to do that. You're able to look and to size and get an estimate at requirements. As opposed to something like lines of code, there is absolutely no way to estimate the size with lines of code before the project and the program code is actually written, because lines of code is what it says. It's counting how much was coded. Therefore, you can't do an early estimate if you're using lines of code, whereas with function point analysis you can. And